Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Rebecca Schaefer at Cincinnati Children's again, here to talk to you about some more information that might be helpful during this COVID-19 crisis. Today, we're going to talk about managing behaviors that might be happening at home. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the PowerPoint and we can get started. All right, so second installment in the series, My Child is Home, Now What? We're going to talk about managing behavior. Again, I am Dr. Rebecca Schaefer. I'm from Cincinnati Children's Hospital in the Fragile X Center, and I'm the Director of Psychological Services. And this seminar is being done with the National Fragile X Foundation. All right, so let's talk about the parts of a plan to managing behaviors. The first thing that we want to think about is, what is my child telling me with this behavior? Because that communication piece is going to be incredibly helpful in developing the plan. So once we know that, we're going to think about, how can we prevent the behavior from happening? Are there things in the environment or in the way we're responding that we can change in order to keep it from even happening? And I would argue during this time that you're stuck at home that this prevention piece is probably going to be your best friend and is the most important part. Then we're going to think about how we can start to reinforce the appropriate behavior that we want to see. And we're going to think about how to build new skills to take the place of that problem behavior. So I do want to preface all of this today by saying that if you feel like you're in crisis and the behavior is too much to manage at home, that's a good indication that this talk is probably not going to be enough for you, and you need to reach out to your providers, whether that be your pediatrician or your psychiatrist or psychologist, to talk about some other ways to start to manage that behavior at home. So let's talk about the first part of the plan. What is my child telling me with this behavior? There's some questions that you really want to ask yourself. Is this new behavior, or is it similar to what we've been seeing in the last little bit before the crisis even started? When does the behavior happen? Is there a certain time of day or after a certain activity that it happens? Who does the behavior happen with? We all know as parents that things sometimes go different with one caregiver than the other. Or with siblings versus caregivers. Has anything worked in the past to address this behavior? It's a really important question. We want to pull on the experiences that we've already had and use those skills to address behavior right now. And then the last question is, my child safe? Is my family safe right now? And if the answer to both of those questions is no, or either of those questions is no, again, that's a good indication that this talk is probably not going to be enough for you, and you need to reach out to the providers that you have who know your child really well and can develop a specific plan for that child, whether that be some new medication management or some more intensive behavioral services. In addition, when we're thinking about what is my child telling me, we want to collect some data. So write down the answers to the questions that we talked about before when the behavior happens. Also write down when you see it. So what times of day is it happening, after what activities, and really think through the answers to those questions, because that's going to give you some information about how to proceed. And then we want to think about what is actually being communicated. So I want attention right now. I want out of this, whether that's a demand or the situation that you're currently in. I want something and you're not giving it to me. Or I like the way this feels or sounds, and that's why I'm doing it. Depending on which one of these is being communicated, we're going to handle it in a different way. So if it's inappropriate behavior related to attention, we're going to remove the attention for that behavior and provide attention for more appropriate behavior, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. If I want out of this situation or this demand, if it's a demand being placed, we probably need to attempt to follow through on that demand and just get it done as quickly as possible, and then allow them to go back to something else enjoyable. If it's the situation that's uncomfortable because they're being hyper-stimulated in that situation, we probably want to allow them out of it and then bring them back when things have calmed down. If they want something and you're not giving it to them, There's probably a reason why you're not giving it, right? We can't eat sweets all day long. We probably can't play on the tablet all day long. So think about whether or not this is something that you could maybe allow access to if they had some appropriate behavior, and then use that as a reinforcement. And then for I like the way this feels or sounds, for this type of behavior, as long as it's not harmful, it's definitely okay to allow it to keep going. That being said, we're in close quarters with families right now, and it may be very annoying to other family members. So think about how it could be done in a way that's going to be more acceptable to everybody. So if it's a loud noise or if it's running or pacing, maybe we have times where that's allowed, or you can do that upstairs while people are downstairs. So really thinking about how to allow it to happen in a way that's going to make everybody comfortable since we're stuck together right now. So the next piece of the plan is to prevent the behavior. And again, I think these are your best options right now in terms of addressing behavior. And I would really encourage you to attempt to think through them and implement them. So the first one on here is to develop a routine. If you haven't yet, watch video number 1 that was already released because it gives some really good details about how to do this. The second one is to give warnings. So this can happen in a visual format or a verbal format. So visual, you can use countdowns on your hand. When all my fingers are gone, we'll be done with this activity. You can use a visual timer app on your phone. There's lots of free options. Check them out and see what works for your family. You can also give verbal warnings. It's almost time to be done with this. I'm going to count to 5 and then we'll be done. When the show is over, we're going to go to the next show. So warnings allow a child to know what's coming, and it just decreases anxiety across the board. Avoidance. So ask yourself, does this actually have to happen? If it's something that can be avoided, then go ahead and avoid it, so that we don't experience the behavior. Could we avoid it with one caregiver versus the other? So sometimes bath time is going to go better with one parent than the other one, and that's okay, especially during this time of kind of crisis. So deciding who it's going to happen better with and go that route. Some things can't be avoided though. So we want to do those things in small steps or amounts. So how much can he handle right now? Try to stop before the behavior happens, take a break, come back and finish it later. This is especially true with schoolwork right now. Change how you ask or respond. So give choices whenever possible. Make sure they're 2 valid choices though. It's not really a choice to say, would you like to do this or sit in timeout? So would you like to do the first part or the second part? Would you like to clean up the red toys or the blue toys? Give prompts. I like to do an indirect prompt. So if I wanted more food, I would say, more food, please, and then wait for them to say it. If they don't say it, give a direct prompt. So say, more food, please, and then we want to reward that. We also want to give really clear directions. So directions shouldn't be a question or an option. Not, would you please clean up your toys? Instead, clean up the red toys, so that they know they have to do it. It's not an option to say no or not do it. We want to build in breaks. This is true for you and for your child. Alone time is really important. And for some kids, alone time is actually really reinforcing. So if that's your child, make sure that's just built into your schedule throughout the day. And then you can also use it as a reward for doing other activities. Build in sensory activities. So check out Jane's sensory diet info that she shared with the very first installment of My Child is Home Now. Also, sensory activities that involve getting the heart rate up or physical activity are definitely encouraged right now. Exercise is really important. It's hard to get it in. So if you can encourage sensory activity that is physical, do it. And then change the environment. So if we're not allowed to play with the tablet right now, then put it away so they can't see it. Because if it's out in front of them, they're going to want to play with it. So we want to make sure we put that away and give them things that they're actually allowed to do at that time. And then we also want to change the environment to think about safety. So if you have a child who is throwing things or getting aggressive, we want to remove items that could potentially cause damage to themselves or others. The next part of the plan is to start to reinforce. So I want to encourage you to catch your child being good. There's probably many things they're doing right now that's really appropriate and great. So make sure you're pointing those out, you're praising them. Give that praise in a way that is acceptable to them. So for a lot of our kids with Fragile X and kids with autism, they're not responsive to really big displays of praise. So maybe do it in a calm, quiet way, give a little high five. Don't make too big of a deal about it, but let them know that you're seeing it. Make items or activities contingent on appropriate behavior. So first you go to the bathroom, then you can have your tablet. First you come do this activity with us as a family, and then you can have alone time in your room. Praise the appropriate behavior that you want to see. I love your nice hands right now. Good job being calm. Decrease attention for inappropriate behavior. Use visuals whenever possible to show that reinforcement. I'm going to show you a couple of examples on the next slide. And then keep rewards immediate and feasible. This is not the time to start a token economy that's going to cover a whole week or 2 whole weeks. Make it really simple. Do rewards multiple times throughout the day so that they're really getting that reinforcement quickly and they're motivated to have appropriate behavior. And think outside the box in terms of reward. So like I said, alone time is pretty rewarding for a lot of our kids. Sensory activities tend to be very rewarding. So think about what you could use as a reward that your child's going to respond to. These are some examples of some simple reward systems. So this is my attempt at some very simple drawing. The top one is a very simple token economy for nice hands. And I would put stars into those boxes. 3 stars equal tablet time. Anybody can draw this and fill it out. The bottom one is a first then. So first I do my schoolwork, then I get to watch Disney Plus. Sorry, my screen is doing. Right. And then we want to build new skills. So this is a good time to build replacement skills for those inappropriate behaviors. So instead of screaming when I want something, we might teach, excuse me, please, or tap me on the shoulder. If your child does any of those replacement skills, we want to make sure we're responsive immediately. So providing whatever it is they've asked for when they do it in an appropriate way. You can also use this time to teach new skills, so skills to lower anxiety. There's going to be an installment of this series that will talk specifically about that next week. You can also teach new skills to build independence and then to fill the schedule because you have a lot of time available right now. I want to briefly talk about some strategies for crisis if you're dealing with aggressive or self-injurious behaviors or some destructive behavior. So first of all, safety is incredibly important. Think about a safe space in your home if an outburst occurs that they can be in, that they'll be safe. We want to think about removing the child or other people. So either trying to get them to a calm, quiet space that is safe. If a sibling or another parent is the target at that time, removing the target and allowing them to go do something somewhere else that's enjoyable for them so that they're not around the individual. We want to limit verbal interaction. So this is not the time for a conversation or a lecture. We're just not rational when we're really escalated. So we want to give them the space. Silence and simple directions are powerful. Don't give directions more than 3 to 4 words. We want to lower demands during this time so that we can keep them safe. And then think about all of those underlying factors that lead to behavioral outbursts and irritability. So is my child hungry, thirsty, tired, or just really overstimulated right now? What can I do to address those concerns? You can provide some hurdle help. So if a task has been presented, provide assistance to finish it or to get them started. Think about proximity. Is it better for you to be close or for you to give space right now? We want to do whatever is going to be best for the individual. And then manage your own emotions. And I cannot emphasize how important this is. So take a deep breath, take a moment away if needed. Our kiddos and young adults can definitely feel our anxiety and our agitation. So we want to do everything we can to calm down so that they can then see that modeled and also calm down themselves. So I'm just going to revisit the parts of this plan really fast to summarize. What is my child telling me? Figure out what the communication is in that moment so you can appropriately address it. Prevent the behavior if at all possible. This is your number one tool right now, is to use those strategies to prevent it. Start to reinforce behavior, really reward those good things that we're seeing and the opposite of the inappropriate behavior, and then start to build some new skills to take the place of that inappropriate behavior. And again, if you're in crisis right now and you feel like the behavior is really out of control or not manageable, then this is the time to reach out to your providers. They're available, they want to help. So reach out and talk about, maybe this is a time for new medication management, or to really trial some more intensive behavior that your psychologist is directing you in. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you again next week.